You're watching The Buzz, where we hit your faves with five rapid fire questions. And today we are buzzing with a man fresh off a triumphant return to pro wrestling. Sweet dreams, Carter Deems.
Hello, how are you?
Not too bad yourself. Welcome back to
Yeah.
the crazy world of pro wrestling.
Yeah, it is crazy when you've been out of it for a while and you come back and you're like, oh, okay, that's what it's like again. That's the feeling. Yeah, that's it.
And so, yeah, you've been out of wrestling for the past 2 years. Do you want to give people that may not know a little quick rundown on what happened and how you managed to keep yourself sane those last 2 years?
Yeah, so pretty much 2 years ago to the show. So at the Newy Pro Rumble show 2 years ago, I was in a tag title match with my tag partner Ben Braxton against the Blue Nation. So it was Rita Stone and Adam Hoffman for the tag titles, and went to the top rope to do a frog splash, and yeah, came down and sort of the minute, like, I've been hurt before in wrestling. I've torn my knee a bit, and there's just pains that you feel, and you go, "Oh yeah, I can get through this." This was just like instantly something's not right. I looked down, and my arm was pretty much in two pieces, and I leant over to Adam Hoffman and said, "My arm's, is it PG?" Or like I said some choice words in Hoffman's ear, and I ran backstage and pretty much left in an ambulance and haven't been back to a wrestling show for 2 years, pretty much.
Yeah, I was at that rumble, and even sitting in the crowd, you could tell something was wrong the way you reacted and just legged it, got out of there straight away. I was like, "Uh-oh, that's not good."
Yeah, it was not very good, man. It's not. Yeah, not a good day. It was. It's certainly the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And when I can say that, being so like hyped on adrenaline, like yeah, as I said, I've been hurt before. I tore my MCL wrestling and was able to finish the match, and it wasn't until like that adrenaline comes off that you start to feel it. This was just like straight away as soon as I hit, yes, something's like not right. And I remember being backstage, and after the match had finished and I'm laying down getting treatment, the first thing I said to Hoff was like, "I'll never wrestle ever again." And like I just felt like that in my head. Like I just felt like I probably wouldn't wrestle ever again.
And how did you sort of manage to keep sane in those 2 years, knowing that this thing that you had so much passion for was just suddenly taken away?
Um, that would imply that I have been sane this whole time. I had a pretty like bad period of my life coming out of that injury. Like it was definitely like a catalyst for like definitely a bad run for not the whole 2 years, but certainly like that initial year after breaking my arm. And for a bit of backstory, like I was thinking that I was probably in my last run, at least for a period of time before the injury. I felt like I was going to do a tag title run and hopefully have, like I'm talking over a course of a year, like probably towards what would have been the original end of my degree. I'd probably take a period of time off because I was starting to feel the burn of like everything that was going on in my life between, kids and uni and wrestling and all that. But yeah, then the arm happened and I felt like I had to make a really brash decision, and I did. And then, you know, a couple of the things that happened along the way, finding out that there was like a WWE tryout not too far after, and, Coliseum. And, I had to go on placement for uni in a hospital after 8 weeks, and I was supposed to be in my brace for 13. So it was just like my whole life is like a mess. So it's only been the last probably 6 months, 8 months that I've felt like I've been getting back to some level of normality, finishing the degree and becoming more like stable in my life, seeking help where necessary. And then I guess the call or the question if I wanted to do the Rumble this last Friday sort of had just come at the perfect time. So I don't think I've been sane for 2 years, brother. I've probably been at my worst for 2 years. I think I'm sane now that I'm back.
Well, that's good to hear that it's back into a good place now and you can move forward and
Yeah.
put that terrible time behind you.
Yeah.
So, as I said, you sort of made your return triumphantly, winning the Newy Pro Rumble, becoming the number one contender. In that vein, who are your top five Royal Rumble or Rumble in general match type winners?
Mm. Myself is in there. I think, yeah, I think Cena is obviously probably number one. 2008 or whatever. That's like,
The return rumble?
yeah, like that's a, I think every wrestler that's ever been injured wants to try and emulate that, and I certainly gave it my best like shot on like a small local indie scale. I tried to really shoot for that return. Obviously, like Mysterio going, he was like probably one of the first people that went from like one or two all the way to the end. I'll say Tuck. I think his run in the Rumble the other day was like pretty insane. I've been in rumbles for like a long time and I've been in wrestling matches for a long time, and I know that wrestling for like an hour is not fun, knowing that you have to like not only remember what you've got to do, but every time you see a countdown there's going to be a new person. You've got to be like, do I have to do anything with this person when they come in? And then like the whole like go home sequence. So yeah, so I think he was Walter at the time. He didn't win it, but the year Cody and him had that interaction in the Rumble, I'll give a shout out to Walter's performance. I thought that was a similar thing. I just think being like the main focus of a Rumble is an incredibly hard thing to do, and being able to come out of a Rumble looking like so credible without winning it is really cool. And then the year Randy Orton won it, which is not that long ago, but it was like at a period of time where everyone was, it's going to be like Roman again or it's going to be Lesnar again, and Randy hadn't been in that top spot for a little while and eliminated Roman last with, I think, just the, not from like a perspective of like I'm jumped out of my skin. I just thought the match was really good. I'd liked the spot leading to the end, and I was like, oh, I think getting surprised as like somebody in the business is pretty, that's a bit of a win, and I'm a big fan of Randy Orton.
You're also a well-known sports fanatic and have rocked a number of sports jerseys for entrances over the years. What are your top 5 sports jerseys of all time?
The Eric Cantona Manchester United jersey from like 1997, 99 era, and it had the, I think I've got one in the cupboard, very small, and it's got like the collar on it, and I just, such an iconic photo of Eric Cantona. Anything early like that era of Manchester United, which is when obviously that's when I was being born, but that's when my like family's love for Manchester United started to grow, and I just, I'm a big fan of Wayne Rooney, so any of the early like Manchester United jerseys. I think out of all the NBA jerseys, I like a Kobe Bryant jersey, like Kobe Bryant Lakers. I wasn't the biggest like, I'm certainly not like a Kobe fan. Like I was a LeBron fan, obviously a lot of respect for Kobe as a player, but just like he's so iconic, and the whole like Mamba mentality, having like a yellow Kobe Bryant jersey is pretty insane. Like it's very iconic. I would, you could say Jordan, but I think that's a very like stereotypical answer. I'll give a shout out to Kobe Bryant.
You've looked like the black and purple Lakers jersey a few times, haven't you?
Yes, I wore the Lakers a lot because my gear is was black and gold. Sort of after, coincidentally, when SMS were planning gear, they wanted to do black and gold, and I was like, oh, I wanted to do that too because I was a big fan of. I'm a huge LeBron fan, and he was at the Lakers at the time, so it worked out really well because I had like 4 or 5 Lakers jerseys that I could rotate with ever having to make any grand changes to the gear. I'll give a quick shout out to not a jersey, but the red Tiger Woods polo shirt. I think that's another one of my favorites as far as like an iconic sportsman. And then on a similar notion, Roger Federer in all white at Wimbledon. Again, super iconic. Roger Federer on the grass, one of the best of all time.
I love that you're sort of not looking at it specifically from like the design aesthetic. It's kind of what those jerseys mean. When you
Yeah,
see that
yeah,
athlete in that jersey, you know you're in for
yeah, for
a
sure.
really difficult time.
Last season's Manchester United away jersey, as that one from a purely aesthetic standpoint doesn't mean anything. Man United are terrible at the moment. We're going through a really tough time. But just as like a looking at a jersey, it's green with white and red sort of stripes. Sounds terrible on paper, but trust me, I've got Marcus Rashford on the back, one of my favorite players of all time. Just from like an aesthetic standpoint, that's like the one I don't buy a lot of like soccer jerseys, especially not for a fashion standpoint. But that was the one that I was like, I gotta have that. I gotta have that. That's
Yep.
that's mine. So yeah, that would be my 5. A couple of iconic ones, and then one that's just complete bias for my favorite team.
And sort of on a similar vein, who are sort of your Mount Rushmore of the quote unquote GOAT athletes?
Definitely Messi. I think he's the first one. I think he's the goat of from my estimation, the biggest sport in the entire world. Like, there's no words to say. Lionel Messi's the first, any Mount Rushmore, any sport that he's on there. I'm putting LeBron on there. He's my basketball goat. I never saw Michael Jordan play. I wouldn't really heavily argue against Michael Jordan either. I'd probably just go, I just prefer LeBron. But I like everything that LeBron stands for as like a human being. Like, come from a really tough background, single mum. He's a good dad, you know, good like public figure, and that stuff like resonates pretty deeply with me. And I just think he's cool. Like, I just think he's like a cool guy. I'd love to meet LeBron James. I have been seeing it a lot on like TikTok recently, and going back to see how good Roger Federer was at tennis. And the older I get, the more I'm starting to really like those, like, I guess, like more humble athletes. Like, Roger Federer was a very like politically correct and never really put a foot out of line, was never in trouble, just used to go out and play, and like is won however many Grand Slams. He's sort of like a bit like Messi. Messi was very like drama free. He just used to let his actions do the talking. So I think from that standpoint, I'd put Roger Federer. So Messi, LeBron, Roger Federer, and maybe like Muhammad Ali. I think just from like it, yeah. Again, I really liked he really stood for something. He really had like a message and broke down a lot of barriers in a really interesting time in the world. I think, you know, there's probably been boxers since that have had better records or, you know, made more money. But I think from like a paving the way sort of thing, Muhammad Ali is such an icon. And I think I'd probably have him in there.
So then our last question as we close out, now that you're back in wrestling, the number one contender for the Newy Pro Heavyweight Championship, what will set this era of Carter Deams apart from previous runs, and sort of what are the main goals this time around?
Towards the end of my last run, I was getting like burnt out as far as felt the pressure of like a lot of other people's like careers on mine. I was in quite an elevated position behind the scenes. I was coaching, doing a lot of like social media advertising, and feeling like my own performance wasn't necessarily like always the priority. And now, since going away and coming back and being able to be on a bit more of like a flexible schedule, I would say, like not having to commit to traveling so many places, and not, you know, I can sit a show out, and if I'm not feeling, I can just like have my eye set on a match. So obviously I was given the call to do the Rumble. I knew that I just had to focus on that. I didn't have to worry about, you know, an endless amount of advertising and sneaking in like a trip to Sydney in between. And now I know in December that I've got my focus on a match with Ben Braxton. So I know that in the lead up, I can put a lot of effort into hopefully doing like a good promo and a good video package, and then ultimately being a little bit more like,
Being a bit more selective.
even a bit more selfish, not like selfish in a way of like I only care about myself. Like I have been back at the Hoos, like helping train people, and that's a part of wrestling that I love, but it's just like a bit more on my schedule. You know, my kids are growing up. My oldest son goes to school next year. So I don't want to feel like trapped or like locked in and feel like I'm letting anyone down. I just want to be able to pop up and benefit people where I can, and just have like the most focus on what I want to do. Because I think in the periods of my career where I was able to have that, sort of towards the end of my run with PWA, and I was just focused on my performances there, I started to do really well, and things really started to turn around for me there. And I ended up having a really cool run, getting to run towards Ricky for the title, and just really enjoyed that like almost freedom of just being like, all I have to worry about for this match is like what I'm going to do in there, how we're going to build it, and then where I move on after. And that's like a nice freedom to have, not really worried about like 20 wrestlers messaging you because they know
What's
that
the rest of the show doing?
yeah, like I'm not promoting, I'm not booking storylines for anyone else. Like I'm not worried about like what I need to watch the first match because I need to know if they've executed it properly. I can just like turn up on show day, chat with who I got to chat to, and then do my thing, and then that's it. And that's like a nice freedom to have, and it's like quite an exciting thing for this next part of my career, because up until like 3 weeks ago, I didn't know that this part of my career was really going to happen. You know, it's been very quick and very, you know, it's been a very quick turnaround. I only really committed to this run 3 weeks ago. So I'm now like just in that like really exciting. I'm enjoying being back at training, enjoying there's a whole heap of people at the Hoos that didn't really come up with me. They've started since I've been gone, or a lot of like the people like Scott Green and Braxton and Rita Stone and Shay Cassidy, and people that I had a lot to do with in their real formative years, and now like main stars. And I'm coming back and almost learning from them. It's like a nice full circle moment, getting to sit under their learning tree for a while. And I guess I've just found, since finishing uni, and I've just been looking to like get back into learning something and like getting better at something every day. So it's nice to go from being like a coach and knowing that I can play the part of coaching someone, but then being able to just like ask people questions to help benefit me and sit under a couple of learning trees for a while.
Yes, I was very excited when you popped back up. I was like, "That's a great return at
Yeah.
30." Great reaction, very great reaction.
I was suffering a little bit from some imposter syndrome. I did get a text, I think it was like 7 weeks ago, that I was officially asked, and I guess I wasn't quite like, didn't know if it was possible. I was freaking out like a lot. I was very anxious about it. And then I went to the gym with Hoffman at the Hoos just as like a casual thing. And he pulled me into the office and said, like, we need a commitment. And I was like, okay, how long have I got? Like 7 weeks? And he goes, 3. So I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I think it was good to do it that way. I didn't have that long to worry about it. All I had to do for 3 weeks was just like a fighter going into camp for like a UFC bout, like just like lock in 3 to 4 weeks, go to the gym, get in the ring, get in shape, and just like go out and nail that like 5 minutes. And yeah, turning up on the day and knowing that they want to film it and get snippets of this, and knowing that like conceptually like this whole match is structured around the reaction that you get. It was terrifying, dude. I was
Yep.
up until I was in my gear behind the curtain, I was terrified. I was like freaking out, asking for like, looking at people going like, bro, I don't know what to do. This is really like, if you had previously seen me backstage in any of the other years, I was always supremely confident, very like relaxed, blasé, very confident out there. This was like it felt like it was my first match ever. And it was
Is
very,
anyone gonna care that I'm back?
yeah, basically. And I I got sent like my Tron like midweek, and usually my entrance music has like a little bit of an intro. And I just said, I've got a feeling that we just need to start it in this. We need to start it here. And then we did like the little video, and then as soon as it hits, remember being backstage and hearing that as soon as like the riff started and the crowd came up, I was just like they remembered who I
Thank
was.
God.
So yeah, thank God was pretty much it. And I walked out onto the stage, and I remember just like, I didn't want to go in the ring, to be honest. I was just happy on the stage. I was like, I just want to jump up here for a little while and like wave and go back. I sort of got to the apron and had to compose myself and be like, oh, you've actually got shit to do in there. You better go out and do it, because I'm just enjoying. I'll never forget that. The unfortunate nature of the injury. I thought I lost everything, like never wrestle again, was never prepared to really wrestle again. And then in a matter of weeks, I'm standing in front of like Newy Pro's biggest ever crowd as like the go home of this incredible show, and get to add like a new chapter to hopefully another couple of years in the wrestling business.
And now with your son sort of growing up a bit too, he can come and watch dad wrestle and actually remember a lot of it.
That was a big driver in wanting to do it, is that he's now like clued into the fact that it's something that I used to do, and there's matches on YouTube of me and he watches them. And I was just like, why not just do it like for him? Why not go out there? And yeah, so that's like a huge driver, is just to show him that like, I think that's cool. It's like, it makes me like a bit emotional to think like the day after he dressed up as me, he had like Peter Pan pants on, but he rolled one leg up. So he had my gear and he sticky taped up his wrists, and I'm just there going like, yeah, this is a nice feeling.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Alrighty, awesome. Thank you, Carter, for joining me on the Hive. Where is the best place for people to stay up to date with you and all of your wrestling and creative work?
I don't know, man. I haven't plugged myself for a while. Just Carter Deams Pro on Instagram is probably the only place I would get back to anyone. Instagram is my favorite. I'm on Twitter as well, but Instagram's the GOAT.
That was The Buzz with Carter Deems. If you want to see more of your faves spill the goods, hit follow and catch me on the latest drop of The Hive.